Time now to break down the AFC West on CBS Sports HQ. We are entering nearly a decade of dominance by the Chiefs. Kansas City has won the last 8 division titles. In fact, since 2010, only the Chiefs and Broncos have won the division. Taking a look at the win totals heading into the 24 season, 2-time champs are tied for the highest win total in the conference at 11.5. Denver down at 5.5. They are 6 flat at some sports books if you think you're going to be bullish on the Broncos, but 5.5 is the number we are going to be talking about today. Back here with Pete Prisco, Brady, Quinn, Haley Sutton. I'm Tommy Chan. Again, standout games now that we know the schedules, and then over-under win totals for the 2-time defending champs at 11.5. And Pete, I'm going to start with you because you said earlier this week if there was ever a year to get Kansas City, it was last year. How does the schedule look this year?
Very favorable. I mean, you open with 2 tough teams, but you look at it, I mean, okay, get those out of the way. Maybe you go 1-1 there. But then you look at the rest of the schedule. It's hard to find losses in that schedule. Maybe at the 49ers, maybe at the Bills, tough games, but the schedule's really favorable for the Kansas City Chiefs. And the reason I said that about last year is we saw their offense for most of the season. They weren't very good on offense. The defense carried them last year. And I think the defense is going to be good again this year, but the offense is going to be better. You add some speed to that offense, and, you know, Worthy and guys like that, you know, Hollywood Brown, they're going to have bigger plays down the field. I think the Chiefs will again be the #1 seed in the AFC. Well, they weren't there last year, but this time around they will be the #1 seed in the AFC, and it's going to go through Arrowhead, the playoffs.
For a team that just won the Super Bowl, we always think they're going to have the toughest schedule. That's not the case here. I think the only thing tough about the schedule is when they do have road games, they come in back-to-back kind of bunches.
We know about back-to-back roadies, don't we?
Which matters to him, not as much to me in this case, especially because one of the matchups he talked about at San Francisco, which is a Super Bowl rematch, it comes off their bye. So they get a couple weeks to prepare. We know how good Andy Reid is coming off the bye, along with Patrick Mahomes for that case. So this team did everything they needed to do in the offseason to shore up what will be a potential chance at a three-peat. They signed back Chris Jones. You restructure things with Patrick Mahomes. You get Kelsey restructured. You get your front office, your coach. Everyone's signed up. And oh, by the way, the thing they struggled with the most last year was the big playability. Well, you get that when you sign Hollywood Brown, when you draft Xavier Worthy to go along with, we don't know if Rashee Rice is going to factor in at all based on the off-the-field stuff, but if he's a part of it with Kelsey, look out. This is going to be a version of Patrick Mahomes where I think, once again, we're talking about him potentially eclipsing 50 touchdown passes. Ooh. This offense is going to be so much fun to watch. I cannot wait for this season, in large part to see what the Chiefs are going to be in their chance at a three-peat.
If they three-peat and win 4 and 6, equaling the Steelers of the 70s, are they now the best dynasty of this time, passing the Patriots?
I think they're already there. They're not going to pass the Patriots with that win. If they win another after that, yes, hands down. Right. No one's going to debate that. But if they get 4 and 6 years, it'd be pretty tough to not compare them to them.
And when you talk about the Steelers used to draft guys and they'd stick there forever. I mean, they had Hall of Famers all across the board because they drafted well. Nobody ever left.
No free agency too.
Yeah. So I think if they win 4 and 6 and 3 in a row, they might be right up there as maybe the greatest of all time, including the Patriots. Yeah.
We'll have to revisit that conversation in the future if it happens. In the meantime, let's talk about the Chargers, who will have a new head coach in Jim Harbaugh. We were talking earlier between Jim and John.
Got both Harbaughs now. Mm-hmm.
But we get both Harbaughs in the Harbaugh game. Will Brinson coining that term there. That one happening, where is it, in week
Thanksgiving
12?
Weekend.
Yeah, Monday Night Football for that one. Gentlemen, obviously a lot of expectations maybe for Harbaugh's return back to the NFL. Pete, when you look at this schedule, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking they're going to go over because he's too good a football coach. And they got a heck of a quarterback. I know there's some issues still with that team, but I'm a big believer in Jim Harbaugh, the football coach. I really am. I mean, the guy will get him playing physical, tough, hard-nosed football. And my only concern, and I've said this many times, is what does it mean for Herbert? Do they take the football out of his hands like they did with J.J. McCarthy? Or do they allow him to be a guy who can sling it around when need be? That's the question. I think he's a brilliant offensive mind when it comes to developing the run game, but what happens to the pass game? And that's my only concern. But you know what they say? I got up this morning, and it wasn't just today. It was today. I got up this morning. It was going to be an ordinary day, but it was today for me.
I'm just glad you woke up today. That's all.
Did you see that?
I did.
What is wrong with that guy?
Look, he's quirky, I think is the best way to put it.
Weird.
He's a great football coach. You know, you talked about the difference for Justin Herbert. I think what he's going to do for him is he's going to be facing a lot less second 11s, right? And a little more second and 5, second and 4, keeping them on track. I think that's going to pay off its dividends for Justin Herbert in this offense, winning games, scoring points, matriculating the ball down the field. You know, you tend to forget, too, because the way they run the football in Michigan or even his past, like this guy wasn't a former quarterback. Clearly, he likes to throw the football. They're going to throw the football when he's got a quarterback like Justin Herbert.
Well, he had a quarterback who was a top 15 pick and he didn't throw the football.
There's other reasons for that. And I know you don't always know what's happening in college football because your head's buried in the sand watching NFL. We'll spend some time afterwards. Well, there's not much to watch there.
No, there isn't.
The reality is this schedule is difficult because the back half of it, at least having to go through the lengths of Bengals, Ravens, at Atlanta, at KC, 4 weeks in a row. That, to me, is where they're really going to be tested. We'll see what this team is made of then, and hopefully by then, because I think the first half of the season is more manageable for the Chargers, they'll be able to have an identity of what they are going to be for this season. So I've got them going just over the number. I think they can get to 9-8 in Jim Harbaugh's first year. They could potentially surpass that, but this is another team, though, that doesn't have a ton of depth. So they've got to stay healthy, too. And this has been a team that's in the years past has been snake-bitten, but I've got them going over the number.
Did you see the drop note on that, by the way? 26,803 miles will be traveled for the Chargers this season when you look at that schedule. So that's obviously interesting as well.
Yep. So we're going to continue the AFC West conversation here and get to the Las Vegas Raiders. Antonio Pierce promoted to full-time head coach. Brady Quinn, when we take a look at this, if you were betting that 6.5 win total, you think you can go under and be relatively sweat-free?
I think so. And in part, I think you're looking at a number of things. Antonio Pierce now is officially the head coach, his first full year with this being his team. But you look at the quarterback position. And I mean, Pete, you talk about the quarterback scales all the time. What matchup on their schedule do you look at and say they definitively have an advantage at the most important position? I don't know that there's one game on their schedule when you look through it. Maybe there's a couple that you would say are debatable. Panthers. But this is a good roster. It's a team that I think will be competitive. I just have big question marks about what this team's going to be offensively. Gardner Minshew appears to be the guy. And if he is, how many of those games can he put this team on his back with Devontae Adams and win football games?
Well, it's not just whether he's the guy, because maybe O'Connell beats him out, but the problem is it's between the two of them.
We saw O'Connell last year.
Yeah, it's between the two of them. I mean, that's not a great situation for your quarterback. And obviously they wanted to try and move up to get a guy like Jaden Daniels. It didn't work out for him, so now they're stuck with these two guys. And I'm with you. I think they're going to have all kinds of problems on offense. They'll be scrappy on defense. They have some talent on that side of the ball. We know that. But I think they're going to have a problem scoring points in the passing game.
The hard thing, too, for, then again, it's not a first-year head coach necessarily for Antonio Pierce. He was head coach there last year, so this team has a feeling of what he is as a head coach. But three of your first five are on the road. That can be difficult if you get off to a bad start, trying to get your team back. And that's always something it's interesting for me to watch when you've got a new head coach to a locker room, how they handle adversity. You're going to have adversity. You're going to lose football games. You're going to have those tough spots in your season. I think this team's going to be tested early, and how they respond to that is going to determine what the second half of the season looks like.
Plus, he was like a substitute teacher last year. They could have thrown erasers at his head. Now he's the head coach, so we'll see how he is now that he has the teaching job, and he's the guy fully in charge, because you used to throw erasers at this.
No, I was just going to say, that sounds like something you would do.
Not a substitute teacher.
Who did it?
He did.
Oh, my gosh. Let's jump over to the Broncos, who have Sean Payton. No Russell Wilson anymore. He is playing for the Steelers, which technically Mike Tomlin, gentlemen, has the opportunity to do the funniest thing ever and start Justin Fields in that Week 2 game against the Broncos, with both of them sort of competing for quarterback time there. But in terms of the Broncos schedule, we'll see Sean Payton go back to the Saints in Week 7, where he won a Super Bowl and had a really great record there. Brady, when you look at this Broncos team, are you high on Sean Payton and what he can accomplish with this schedule?
No, because it's a rebuild year, in my opinion, right? You're starting a rookie quarterback in Bo Nix right out the gate. Now, he's one of the most NFL ready, so that's fine, but 3 or 4 games are on the road. That's always going to be tough. On top of that, their defense gave up a ton of points last year, and I know we're going to talk about how improved they were in the second half of the season. There's still some holes there as well. So I've got some major concerns about what this team's going to be offensively, if they can score points, and then defensively, if they can keep them within games, knowing that they're playing in a division with Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. So they're playing for second place at best, and even then, I don't have high expectations for this team this year.
So you have them under the win total?
Yes.
Well, I got them over the win total. I'm with you, though. I think this is a kind of a building year for them. But look at that schedule. When you look at the schedule, there's winnable games on that schedule. I mean, you play Carolina, that's a layup. I mean, you get Russell Wilson in week 2.
You know, Carolina in week 8.
Yeah,
go look at the first 7 weeks of the season. How does that look?
Yeah. Well, they'll beat the Steelers because they know what Russell Wilson can do. Nothing. I mean, they exercised a demon. They got rid of him. I mean, that's an advantage. That's a plus. They moved up.
You're going to eat those words this season when the Steelers are in the playoff team.
I don't think so.
Okay.
He's washed up. I think they'll go over the total. I think Bo Nix will be better than people think he is. I'm like you. I probably wouldn't have moved to pick them in that spot, but I think he'll be better in that offense than people think, and I think they'll win more than 5.5 games.
Okay.
Not many more, but more.
Okay. 5.5 or 6 across the market there. Again, depending on where you sit with the Broncos, that 5.5 or 6 will certainly matter. Pete, Brady, certainly appreciate you guys as always. Throw the eraser at the teacher. Who did it? Not Pete Prisco.
Not Pete.
Brady did it.
Odds to win the AFC East via FanDuel. Kansas City, the odds-on favorite, -230, followed by the Bolts, the Raiders, and if you want to take a chance on the Broncos, 20-1.